I used to think betrayal came with flashing neon signs, a sudden affair, a slammed door, an explosion. But sometimes it creeps in quietly through a shared tablet left unlocked on the kitchen counter. My name is Maya. I'm a mother, a marketing manager, and until recently, I thought I had a solid marriage with Derek. We had our son Julian 11 years ago. Derek was charming, confident, the kind of man who could talk his way into or out of anything. He made everyone laugh at dinner parties, told stories like he was a hero of every tale. For years, I thought I was lucky, and maybe I was just not in the way I believed. It started small. Julian got quieter. He stopped drawing silly cartoons and started sketching these dark, confusing pictures. A crying boy, too tall, faceless adults with their backs turned. I brushed it off at first. He was growing up. Kids change. But then I noticed the tablet. We shared a household device mostly for grocery lists and recipes. One evening, while I was checking a list, a notification popped up, a heart emoji, followed by, "Can't wait to taste you again tonight." It was from Tina. Tina, my best friend since college, my maid of honor, Julian's godmother. We had coffee together twice a week. She was the one who cried with me when I miscarried our second child. I stared at the screen, numb. I didn't confront Derek that night. I didn't cry or scream. I took screenshots, then quietly closed the app. The next day, I invited Tina over. I watched her lie to my face, smiling as if everything was fine. She talked about her dating troubles, complained about her job, asked about Julian. I looked into her eyes and didn't see guilt. I saw arrogance. When I did finally ask Derek about it, he chuckled, said it was just jokes. Tina was being dramatic. They were play flirting. He wrapped his arm around me and told me I was overthinking. But he never touched the tablet again after that night. He started locking it. So I started watching. I noticed a late-night text, the sudden gym membership he never used, the gas receipts from neighborhoods we had no business driving through. I didn't say a word. I learned how to mirror his confidence, how to play the role, let him think he was winning. Then Laura came in. She worked at Julian's daycare. Sweet, reserved, always complimenting Derek's dad energy. I thought she was just friendly. But then Julian mentioned offhandedly that Daddy visited school often, and not to see him, to bring Miss Laura coffee. A lot. I started picking Julian up myself. Laura would barely look me in the eye. Something clicked. I checked Derek's GPS logs. Yes, he had installed it to keep our family safe. It showed him parked outside the daycare during hours Julian wasn't even there. I confronted him again. He didn't deny Laura, but he said it only happened once. Like it was some accidental misstep, like slipping on a patch of ice. I didn't respond. I just filed that moment away with the rest. You learn a lot in silence. People fill silence with confessions they don't realize they're making. That's when I knew I wasn't married to someone who made a mistake. I was married to someone who felt entitled to lie. And Tina? She wasn't a friend who got confused. She was a participant in the unraveling of my life. And Laura? She was a footnote to their arrogance. But I wasn't going to fight them like they expected. No confrontations. No drama. Just the truth. Delivered like a scalpel. Quiet, precise, and devastating. I thought I'd uncover the worst of it, but what I found next made the first betrayal look like a warm-up. The thing about liars is, they never stop at one. They spiral, creating layers of deceit until the entire truth is buried under a mountain of manipulation. And I was about to start digging. Julian had a field trip coming up. I volunteered to chaperone, mostly because I didn't trust Derek showing up unexpectedly. I had this gnawing suspicion that he was using our son as a cover for something more. That's when I saw them, Derek and Laura, outside the school before anyone else arrived. His hand on her lower back, her leaning in way too comfortably. They didn't see me, and I didn't announce myself. Later that night, I went through the tablet again. This time, I knew what I was looking for. Different names, different apps. Derek was smart enough to hide messages under aliases, but not smart enough to delete everything. I found saved images buried in cloud folders. Laura in our guest bathroom, Tina in our bed, Screenshot of a group chat where the three of them joked about me, called me the antique, said I was too wrapped up in being a mom to notice anything. They laughed about how careful they were, how I'd never see it coming, how Tina would keep me distracted. They planned it like a game. Laura would accidentally run into Derek at school events, play innocent. Tina kept me busy, helped me heal from the tension she was causing behind my back. And Derek? He was a ringleader. What they didn't know was that I wasn't clueless. I was patient. I found receipts, hotel bookings made under Derek's business card. One of them dated the same weekend. He said he was on a corporate retreat. The guests listed on the room? Tina Martin. Not even Laura. That's when I realized this wasn't just overlapping affairs. They were all involved with each other. Derek was with both Tina and Laura. And those two weren't just rivals. They were partners in this. All of them tangled up in something vile and coordinated. I remembered the night Julian had come to me after a nightmare. He said he heard Daddy talking to someone named T on speakerphone and said she laughed like she hated Mommy. He didn't understand it, but I did. They weren't just cheating. They were mocking me, disrespecting my son's home, violating every inch of trust we had built as a family. Still, I didn't explode. I played dumb. Let them think they had the upper hand. I started planting doubt in Tina's mind. Subtle hints about Derek's history of moving on quickly. She didn't take the bait publicly, but I saw the flicker of suspicion in her eyes. Then I left a photo out, just enough of Laura's handwriting on a note to Derek that Tina would recognize. They were so busy enjoying the betrayal that they didn't see me handing them weapons to turn on each other. Julian's drawings got darker, more specific. 3 adults now, all whispering while a child stood in the corner. I asked him if they said anything to him. He said, "Daddy told Miss Laura she was prettier than you." Then he laughed. My son didn't need therapy to know he was watching a house collapse. He just needed someone to protect him when the rubble hit. I documented everything. Every message, every transaction, every time Derek lied. Tina was the easiest to track. She used her real name, never deleted anything. Laura tried to cover her tracks, but she left digital fingerprints everywhere. They thought they were in control. That I was the fool, the placeholder wife too busy wiping noses and packing lunches to notice the mess behind me. What they didn't know was that the mess was the plan. Because when liars talk too much, all you need to do is listen and wait. I never planned on using my son in the middle of this war. But Derek made the decision for both of us the night he sent that message. It was short, careless, cruel. He thought it was just a text. What he didn't know was that it would become the blade that cut through everything. The night before our custody hearing, Derek must have thought he was being slick. I watched him texting, smirking like he was winning. Later, when he fell asleep, I checked the sync data. A message from him to Tina read, "You get the house, I get my freedom. She gets the kid." That was it. That was how little he thought of Julian. Not as a person. Not even as a responsibility. Just something to dump on me so he could run off and live his fantasy with 2 women who had already turned on each other. The arrogance of that line was what sealed it. It wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was abandonment dressed as strategy. I didn't tell Julian right away. But kids are smarter than we give them credit for. He had already sensed a shift. He asked me, "Why doesn't Daddy hug me anymore?" I told him the truth. I said sometimes adults get confused, and it's not about him. But I also told him that no matter what, we tell the truth, even when it hurts. He nodded like he understood. That's when he said, "I saw Daddy's message, the one where he said you get me." I froze. How? I asked. He said he was trying to play a game on Derek's phone, and the text popped up. He didn't tell anyone. Just memorize the words. I didn't coach him. I didn't tell him what to say. But I explained the hearing. I told him the judge might ask questions. I told him to be honest, just like we always practiced. Julian wasn't scared. He was calm in a way that only comes from clarity. He knew who was standing by him. Meanwhile, Derek thought he had it all lined up. He was planning to get joint custody, keep the house for show, and rotate between Tina and Laura like it was some reward. Tina had already started sleeping at the house occasionally. Laura kept texting him articles on blended families. They were acting like I was already gone, like Julian was just a piece of the furniture they forgot to move. They didn't know I had built a case. I had hard evidence of the affairs, photos, transaction histories, and I had Derek's own words. But I didn't submit them all in advance. I waited, because timing wasn't just everything, it was the weapon. I watched them all spiral in real time. Tina found a text from Laura that said, "At least I'm a favorite." Laura saw a payment Derek made to Tina for emergency expenses. They were unraveling each other, without even realizing I was holding the thread. The night before court, Julian came to my room with a stuffed bear and asked, "Will they make me choose?" I told him no, but inside I hoped he'd speak. Not for me, for himself. He didn't have to choose between parents. He already had. And Derek's message made it easy. There's a silence in children when they're processing betrayal. It doesn't look like anger or sadness. It looks like detachment, like watching a fire from behind glass. Julian had stopped looking at Derek the same way. And when a child stops seeing their parent as protector, that's a scar that never fades. Derek gave up his son in a single sentence. He just didn't know it yet. The courtroom wasn't what I expected. No drama, no shouting, just cold air and colder glances. Derek came in with that same smugness, like he already won. He wore a Navy suit he only dusted off for corporate meetings and funerals. And from the way he greeted the bailiff, you'd think he was at a charity gala. Tina wasn't far behind. She sat in the back row, tried to look supportive but distant. Laura didn't show. Maybe the guilt finally caught up, or maybe she knew what was coming and didn't want to witness it. Derek's lawyer tried to paint him as a devoted father caught in an emotional storm. They leaned heavily into the idea that we just grew apart. No mention of affairs. No mention of emotional neglect. Just vague words like irreconcilable differences and modern family dynamics. It would have worked if I didn't come armed with more than just accusations. When it was my turn, I handed over a single folder. No dramatic speeches. Just timestamps, messages, photos, and one highlighted screenshot. You get the house, I get my freedom. She gets the kid. The judge raised an eyebrow. Derek froze. The confidence drained from his face in seconds. His lawyer asked for context. I stayed quiet, because context was already sitting beside me. Julian. The judge asked if Julian would be willing to speak. I looked at him. He nodded, calm, composed, like he had waited for this moment longer than we realized. They asked him simple questions at first. Who he lived with, what school he went to. Then the judge asked, "Do you feel safe with your dad?" Julian didn't blink. No. The room went silent. Even Derek stopped fidgeting. The judge leaned forward, surprised. "Why not?" Julian said, "Because he doesn't talk to me unless someone's watching. Because he told someone else that I wasn't important. And because he lied to Mommy all the time. They tried to recover, said he was too young to understand, said it was manipulation. But children don't fake that kind of truth. It's too raw, too unfiltered." Derek tried to speak directly to Julian, told him he loved him, that adults make mistakes. Julian turned away. That rejection was louder than anything said that day. Then I submitted Derek's financial inconsistencies, the money transfers, the hotel stays. I didn't mention the affairs out loud. I let the evidence speak. The judge didn't need drama, just facts. And facts were stacked in my favor. Tina looked smaller with every passing minute. She had to listen as a man she was building a life with got dismantled in a courtroom by the very woman she betrayed. At one point, she tried to leave but stayed, probably to see if Derek would crawl back to her when it all fell apart. He didn't. The judge made it clear. Derek's parental rights weren't being stripped, but primary custody was mine. No overnight visits without supervision. No unscheduled pickups. Every interaction would be documented. Julian leaned into me when the ruling was made. He didn't cheer. He didn't smile. He just sighed, like a weight he'd been carrying had finally dropped. Derek didn't look at me when he left. Tina followed behind, silent, not holding hands. not making eye contact. Truth isn't loud. It doesn't need to be. It just sits there undeniable, while liars crumble in its presence. And that day, everyone heard it, especially when it came from a child who finally got to speak. After court, I didn't feel victorious, just clean, like shedding a second skin that had grown too tight over the years. Derek didn't call, didn't text. Not that I expected him to. He had built his world on illusions, and it collapsed in one afternoon. The silence afterward wasn't peace. It was consequence. Julian adjusted faster than I thought. He asked fewer questions. Ate more. Laughed again. I caught him drawing a picture of just the two of us, standing under the sun. No shadows. No whispers. Just a mom and her boy, smiling. That meant more to me than any ruling ever could. Word spread fast. Friends stopped pretending they didn't know. Some apologized for not saying anything sooner. Others avoided me altogether, like I was contagious. Betrayal as a way of making people uncomfortable, even if they weren't the ones who committed it. Tina tried to reach out once. Sent a 3-paragraph message that began with, "I never meant to hurt you." I deleted it before finishing the second line. Laura never contacted me. But I heard from someone at the school that she transferred out of state. Maybe she thought leaving would erase what she did. Or maybe she just couldn't look my son in the eye anymore. Either way, her silence was the only apology I'd accept. Derek tried to repair his image, of course. Posted vague quotes about forgiveness and growth. Took photos of Julian during their supervised visits, trying to prove he was still involved. But the eyes in those pictures told the real story. Julian wasn't angry, he was distant. A quiet wall had gone up, and Derek couldn't scale it with hashtags and hollow captions. I focused on rebuilding. Not just life, but trust. I talked to Julian every night. We started a little ritual. One truth, one joke, one dream. It was our way of reconnecting, threading honesty back into the fabric of our home. Some nights were heavy. Other nights, he just wanted to laugh. Both were healing. I found a job offer in another city a few months later. Better pay, new environment, clean slate. I didn't hesitate. Julian liked the idea too. "Can we get a dog there?" he asked. I said yes. We packed what mattered and left everything else behind. The day we moved, Derek didn't show. Not to say goodbye, not to ask for one more chance. And that was fine, because he had already said everything he needed to the moment he typed, "She gets the kid." That sentence sealed his place, not as a father, but as a footnote. Tina and Derek didn't last. I heard from a mutual friend that things got ugly once she realized she wasn't the exception, just another name on a list. I didn't feel satisfaction. I felt distance, like watching a movie you've already seen. You know how it ends, and it's no longer your concern. Julian started calling me his always parent. Said it with a grin one morning while tying his shoes. That's when I knew we were okay. Not perfect, not untouched, but okay. And sometimes that's stronger than anything else. Revenge isn't always fire and fury. Sometimes it's letting people sit in the emptiness they created for themselves. Sometimes it's choosing peace. So loudly it drowns out everything they hope will hurt you. He gave me the kid. And in doing so, he gave me everything that still mattered.